I can't write in that specific channel's exact style, but I can give you an original long-form narration with a classic success philosophy, cadence, and contemporary motivational force. Rich is not a number, it is a posture, and every morning you delay that posture, your life leaks away like water from a cracked vessel while you stare at the empty cup in your own hands. You have been taught to believe that wealth arrives first and confidence follows after. You have been taught to wait for the evidence, wait for the contract, wait for the opportunity, wait for the account balance, wait for the applause, wait for the world to nod before you dare to move. And while you wait, your days go cold, your shoulders sink, your speech shrinks, your standards loosen, your mind becomes like a ship without a sail, floating wherever fear pushes it. That is how people lose years. Not in one catastrophe, in quiet surrender, in ordinary hesitation. In the small daily act of behaving like life is withholding something from them. Now here's the truth. The poverty that ruins most people is not always in the wallet. It is in the bearing. It is in the expectation. It is in the private assumption that says, maybe life forgot me. Maybe my hour has not come. Maybe I should play smaller until proof arrives. And that assumption has a cost. It costs mornings. It costs introductions you never make. It costs the call you never return. It costs the business you never start. It costs the skill you never sharpen. It costs 10 years in 5-minute fragments. It costs the respect you owe yourself. If you live 1 year beneath your real standard, you can recover the money. If you live 10 years beneath your real identity, the greater loss is harder to measure. It becomes a habit of shrinking. It becomes a reflex of apology. It becomes a life spent asking permission to exist at full power. That is what must end today, because the shift you need is not from broke to wealthy. It is from waiting to claiming. It is from fear to authorship. It is from reaction to dominion. Act as if God has already made you rich. I do not mean pretend for the crowd. I do not mean perform luxury. I do not mean buy what you cannot afford and call it faith. I mean stand in the inner certainty that your life is not an accident, your gifts are not a clerical error, and your future does not begin when somebody else finally approves of you. The truth is simple. You will not build a rich life while rehearsing poor thoughts. You will not carry abundance in your hands while carrying insufficiency in your posture. You will not command opportunity while kneeling before fear. Act as if God has already made you rich. That sentence is not fantasy. It is discipline. It is a way of seeing. It is a spiritual and psychological decision. It means you stop introducing yourself to life as a beggar and start meeting it as a steward. It means you stop saying, what if nothing works? And start asking, what must I become to carry what is already trying to come to me? It means you stop letting the outer world dictate your inner weather. Because the outer world is often late, very late. History proves it. Opportunity rarely announces itself with trumpets. It arrives disguised as obscurity, inconvenience, repetition, and work, and only the prepared eye can recognize it. Here's the thing. History remembers a few. It remembers the ones who saw themselves before the world could see them. It remembers the men and women who behaved with inner possession before public proof. Edwin C. Barnes did not arrive at Edison's door looking like a partner. He arrived looking like a poor man with a dangerous decision inside him. His clothes did not impress. His position did not qualify him. The railroad soot on his face did not suggest destiny. But he carried one possession that outweighed appearances. He had already settled the matter in his mind. He did not come hoping vaguely to do business with Edison one day. He came decided. He came as a man who had inwardly crossed the bridge before the world had even built it. That is why he endured the humble beginning. That is why lesser tasks did not insult him. That is why delay did not break him. He had acted rich in the rarest currency first, conviction. So hear this and hear it well. Claim it before proof. Most people think belief should follow evidence. It does not. In every meaningful achievement, belief goes first. The architect drafts the blueprint before the skyscraper rises. The painter sees the image before the brush touches the canvas. The farmer trusts the seed before the harvest fills the barn. Why should your life be any different? You keep asking your future to introduce itself before you trust it. It will not. Your future responds to a different language. Decision. Faith is first possession. Today, write one sentence by hand. Write it clearly. Act as if God has already made you rich. And define what rich means in character before it means money. Rich in discipline. Rich in health. Rich in standards. Rich in service. Rich in courage. Read that sentence in the morning. Read it at night. Do not whisper it like a wish. Read it like a claim being entered into the record of your life. Because what you repeat with feeling begins to instruct your nervous system. and your nervous system is listening all day. That is why the next battle begins before your feet even touch the floor. Guard the morning gate. Most people think the day begins when they start working. It does not. The day begins at the moment consciousness returns and the mind opens like a door with no guard standing there. And if you are careless in that first interval, a fire hose of thoughts rushes in. Bills, messages, comparison, old disappointments, unfinished worries, borrowed urgency. Soon your mind is no longer a kingdom. It is a hallway with strangers running through it. But the first thoughts of the day are not harmless. They are wet cement. They are garden soil. They are the first bricks laid one by one in the architecture of your mood. And when the soil is neglected, weeds do not ask permission. They grow. When the blueprint is sloppy, the building does not correct itself halfway through construction. Your morning is a declaration. It tells your subconscious what rank your own life holds in the order of your day. But here's the truth. You have been letting the world speak first. And the world speaks in panic. The world speaks in scarcity. The world speaks in noise. If you let noise speak first, peace spends the whole day trying to catch up. What enters first grows strongest. So take the first 5 minutes back. Do not touch the phone. Do not open the gate to the crowd. Sit upright. Breathe slowly. State 3 things aloud. What you are grateful for. What you are building. Who you will be today. If you can, place your hand on your chest and say, I am not chasing what is mine in spirit. I am preparing to carry it in form. That single practice will begin changing your days because it changes your first agreement. And your first agreement matters. A river gains momentum because it keeps moving in one direction. A life gains power the same way. Which brings us to what almost everyone misunderstands next. Move before mood. Most people think motivation causes action. It does not. Action causes motivation. Motion creates evidence. Evidence strengthens belief. Belief fuels more motion. That is how momentum is born. A muscle is not trained by admiring strength. A blade is not sharpened by discussing sharpness. A fire does not forge steel because the metal felt inspired. It is the friction, the heat, the repeated contact that changes the thing itself. The Wright brothers were not handed a sky already open. They had wind, ridicule, splinters, failed tests, fragile machines, and the stubbornness to keep learning from the air. Imagine them there with wood, wire, and impossible ambition, lifting an idea that the age itself doubted, returning again and again to a field where the evidence kept saying not yet, while the inner voice kept saying continue. That is the pattern. Not glamorous, not convenient. Sacred, though, because they did not wait to feel like pioneers. They moved like pioneers until history had to catch up and name what they had become. Motivation follows movement. So use the 5-minute rule today. Choose the thing you have delayed, the proposal, the workout, the difficult message, the first page, the sales call. Give it 5 minutes only. Not because 5 minutes is enough to finish, because 5 minutes is enough to break the spell. Once the river moves, it wants to keep moving. Once the wheel turns, it resists stopping. Once the first brick is laid, the wall becomes imaginable. And imagination joined to movement is dangerous in the hands of a serious person. Now let us speak of money itself, because many people injure themselves there. Spend like a builder. Most people think acting rich means looking expensive. It does not. Acting rich means being directional. It means every dollar, every hour, every conversation is assigned a purpose worthy of your future. Andrew Carnegie did not become mighty because he admired coins. He became mighty because he understood organization, leverage, people, structure, and disciplined accumulation. He thought in systems. He thought in steel, rail, process, library, legacy. He understood that true wealth is not noise. It is architecture. The poor mind wants the symbol. The rich mind wants the engine. One wants to be seen. The other wants to build. One burns cash to soothe insecurity. The other places resources like bricks, one by one, until an empire stands where impulse used to live. The truth is simple. Every purchase is a vote. Every hour is an investment. Every yes is a subtraction from something else. So stop asking only, can I afford this? Ask, what future does this feed? Ask, does this strengthen my body, my craft, my peace, my business, my reach, my character? If not, do not baptize leakage with the language of reward. That is not reward. That is drift with better packaging. Luxury without direction is expensive poverty. Today, audit 1 day of spending, not 1 month. 1 day, right where your money went, right where your time went. Then mark each line with 1 word, builder or drifter. Do it honestly. That one exercise will reveal why some people pray for abundance while funding their own stagnation. Wealth is not merely what comes in. It is what obeys a worthy design once it arrives. And design depends on the beliefs you allow to live in your mind. Refuse borrowed beliefs. Most people think their thoughts are their own. Many are not. They inherited them. From frightened parents, from bitter friends, from tired coworkers, from loud strangers. From a culture that profits when you doubt yourself. Henry Ford was told what could not be done. So was Walt Disney. So was Abraham Lincoln in season after season of defeat and humiliation. Consider Lincoln for a moment, carrying grief, setbacks, political losses, and a nation he had not yet been allowed to lead, yet continuing to educate his mind and strengthen his purpose until failure became less a verdict and more a forge. A weak soul would have mistaken repeated defeat for identity. A lesser man would have borrowed the crowd's opinion and called it truth. But Lincoln kept returning to principle. He kept enlarging his inner stature before the office ever matched it. That is what you must do, because borrowed disbelief is still disbelief, and a borrowed chain still restrains the ankle. Here's the thing. History remembers a few. It remembers the ones who refuse to rent their self-image from public opinion. Comparison is a thief that robs you of joy and clouds your mind. That is not poetry. That is diagnosis. The moment you measure your unfolding against another person's visible chapter, you begin abandoning your own assignment. Their timing is not your timing. Their call is not your call. Their test is not your test. And if you keep bowing to mirrors that were never meant to define you, you will spend your one life living secondhand. Borrowed doubt is still bondage. So name 3 voices today. Write them down. Whose opinion still echoes in your decisions? Who taught you to shrink? Who trained you to apologize for wanting more? Then answer each voice with one deliberate truth, not arrogance. Truth. I am allowed to grow. I am allowed to want excellence. I am allowed to build a life that reflects the gifts entrusted to me. Validation begins within. Until you know that, you will keep negotiating with people who were never qualified to approve your destiny. And that brings us to your speech, because speech is where identity enters the body. Speak to your future. Most people think words merely describe reality. They do not. They instruct attention. They direct emotion. They train expectation. They call one world closer and push another farther away. A magnet draws iron toward it because of the field it holds. Your words create a field. Not magic without effort, not fantasy without labor, but a field nonetheless. Walt Disney went bankrupt before the kingdom appeared. Helen Keller faced darkness and silence that most minds cannot even imagine, yet through discipline, instruction, and indomitable inner response, she became a light to millions because she refused to speak of herself as a closed door. Do you understand the pattern? What you say repeatedly with conviction becomes the room your mind lives in. And if you keep living in rooms called maybe, later, probably not, and who am I, you should not be surprised when your body behaves timidly inside them. But if you begin speaking in rooms called, chosen, building ready, learning and rising, something changes. Your eyes change, your spine changes, your decisions change. Words install identity. So speak one living declaration every day, not 10. 1. I carry abundance with discipline. Or I am becoming the kind of person trusted with increase. Or act as if God has already made you rich. Say it slowly. Say it standing up. Say it until your own ears stop hearing it as performance and start recognizing it as alignment. Because before the world believes in you, you must believe in yourself. That is not optional. That is entry-level power. Yet even when you claim, guard, move, build, refuse, and speak, you will still meet failure. Which is why the next principle may save your life. Recover immediately. Most people think failure is the fall. It is not. Failure is staying down long enough to build a home there. Amelia Earhart did not court the sky because it was safe. She met danger, scrutiny, exhaustion, and the weight of symbol, yet she continued because the call to enlarge what was possible outweighed the comfort of retreat. The same is true in business, in healing, in discipline, in prayer, in any worthy ascent. You will have a bad day. You will say the wrong thing. You will miss the target. You will lose money. You will doubt yourself. You will backslide. Count yourself as a failure the moment you fail to recover. That is the standard, not perfection. Recovery. A blade can be sharpened again. A muscle can be trained again. A garden can be weeded again. A lighthouse still stands in the storm, not because the storm asked permission to rage, but because the structure was built to remain oriented when everything else starts spinning. Now here's the truth. Your power is not proven by never trembling. It is proven by how quickly you return to center. Recovery is power in motion, so create a reset ritual today. When you drift, do 3 things. Stand up, take 10 deep breaths. Return to one next action, no drama, no courtroom, no self-condemnation marathon. Just return again and again. That is how a strong life is built, not by flawless days, by faithful recoveries. And behind every one of these principles lies one inner force, not luck, talent, not positive thinking alone. It is organized faith. It is the deep inner agreement between your spirit your mind, your speech, and your behavior. That is why all of this works. Because when a person acts as if God has already made them rich, they stop dividing themselves. They stop praying one thing and practicing another. They stop desiring abundance while embodying scarcity. They stop asking for increase while rehearsing unworthiness. What all of these rules share is not performance. It is congruence. It is inner union. It is the refusal to live in contradiction. When your thoughts are rich in purpose, your words rich in authority, your habits rich in discipline, your use of time rich in intention, and your recovery rich in resolve, the outer life begins slowly, then suddenly to mirror the inner order you established in secret. This is not always instant, but it is exact. It works like nature works. Seed, root, shoot, fruit, not because the soil was emotional, because the conditions were right. And now we must go deeper still, because if you leave this message with only a checklist, you will use these principles for a week and then wander again. This is not finally about what you do. It is about who you are becoming. You are not merely trying to perform richer habits. You are trying to become a person whose inner government is no longer run by fear. You must reclaim the throne of your own mind. Do you hear the dignity in that? Not seize the applause of the crowd, not control every event. Reclaim the throne of your own mind. Because too many people have abdicated. They let trends rule them. They let headlines rule them. They let comparison rule them. They let memory rule them. They let one bad season tell them who they are. No more. You are the center of your universe. Never forget it. That does not mean the world revolves around your ego. It means your inner world is the command center from which meaning, action, and direction flow. If that center is fractured, everything downstream is confused. If that center is aligned, even difficulty becomes usable. Before the world believes in you, you must believe in yourself. Validation begins within. And comparison is a thief that robs you of joy and clouds your mind. These are not soft sayings. They are laws of inner command. The person you are becoming does not beg the mirror for permission. The person you are becoming does not wake up empty and ask the crowd to fill him. The person you are becoming carries a standard into the room. The person you are becoming knows that wealth begins as worthiness expressed through responsibility. The person you are becoming walks into ordinary hours with uncommon self-respect. Act as if God has already made you rich. Act that way when no one claps. Act that way when the balance is small. Act that way when the opportunity is hidden. Act that way when the house is quiet and the old fear returns. Act that way in how you dress your thoughts. Act that way in how you answer setbacks. Act that way in the first hour of your day. Act that way in the smallest promise you keep to yourself. Because riches are not only attracted by hunger, they are trusted to steadiness. Heaven does not reward confusion with stewardship. And let me say one thing more, slowly. If God has already placed gifts in you, then to live beneath them is not humility. It is negligence. If strength has been entrusted to you, then chronic hesitation is not modesty. It is waste. If a call has been written into your nature, then constant self-diminishment is not safety. It is disobedience to your own design. That may sound severe. Good. Some truths must land with weight. You have drifted long enough. You have explained long enough. You have postponed long enough. You do not need another year of admiring the lives of people who simply became more obedient to their own assignment than you have been to yours. Here's the thing. History remembers a few. Not because God loved them more. Not because life spared them pain. Not because they never doubted. It remembers them because they kept returning to an inner standard until the world was forced to witness the outer result. That standard is available to you now. In this breath. In this choice. In the next hour. You do not need to feel electrified. You need to decide. You do not need a sign from the sky before you honor the gifts already in your hands. You need congruence. You need repetition. You need self-command. You need the holy stubbornness to keep your inner world aligned with the future you claim. Richness begins where apology ends. So when this message ends, do not merely nod. Do something. Write the sentence. Guard the morning. Take the 5 minutes. Audit the spending. Name the borrowed voices. Speak the declaration. Practice the reset, lay the bricks, sharpen the blade, train the muscle, draft the blueprint, tend the garden, become unmistakable to yourself. Because once a person becomes unmistakable to himself, the world eventually senses it. Your handshake changes, your timing changes, your standards change, your tolerance for foolishness changes, your discernment deepens, your energy stops leaking into what cannot feed your purpose. And little by little, what looked like luck from the outside is revealed to be inner order maintained over time. That is the real secret most people never learn. Not that the universe is cruel, not that success is for a chosen few, but that most people never stay aligned long enough for invisible causes to become visible results. You can. You must. And if you do, a year from now you will walk through rooms that once intimidated you with quiet authority. You will make decisions that once frightened you with surprising calm. You will hold money with wisdom instead of panic. You will carry peace where you used to carry performance. You will no longer chase every shining thing because your direction will be clearer than temptation. You will look back at this former version of yourself with compassion, but not with longing, because you will have become too solid to return to confusion. So decide now. Stop waiting. Stop shrinking. Start ruling. Then keep the promise. Keep it in the dark. Keep it in the ordinary. Keep it when results are delayed. Keep it when old habits knock. Keep it when nobody sees the effort. That is where identity is sealed. That is where character becomes magnetic. That is where abundance finds a vessel that can hold it without breaking. Act as if God has already made you rich. Not someday, now. Not in fantasy, in posture, in speech, in stewardship, in discipline, in recovery, in self-respect. Decide who you will be. Refuse who you have been. Honor what you carry. And soon you will realize that the life you prayed for did not begin when the money arrived. It began the moment your inner world stopped arguing with your calling. And from that day forward, your work grew cleaner, your peace grew deeper, your opportunities grew larger, and your presence itself began to open doors you used to beg to enter. Reclaim the throne. Wealth begins with bearing. Faith is first possession. A rich mind refuses to kneel to delay. What you claim inwardly, you can build outwardly. Poverty often begins as permissionless drift. Your first thought sets the rank of your day. Motivation is the reward of movement. A builder asks what future this feeds. Luxury without direction is expensive poverty. Borrowed doubt is still bondage. Comparison steals assignment from the soul. Validation begins within and grows into power. Words do not just describe you, they train you. Your mouth teaches your mind what to expect. Recovery is stronger than perfection. A setback becomes failure only when you build a home there. Organized faith ends inner contradiction. The outer life mirrors inner order maintained in secret. You must guard the gate of your morning. You must spend like a steward, not a spectator. You must speak like a person entrusted with increase. You must return quickly when you drift. The rich life is built brick by brick. Your habits reveal what your prayers truly believe. When apology ends, richness begins. A blueprint precedes every skyscraper of destiny. The world often arrives late to what God already planted. Your future responds to decision, not hesitation. A disciplined spirit becomes magnetic. You are not waiting for permission, only alignment. The throne of your mind belongs to you. Self-respect is the first currency of abundance. What you rehearse in secret appears in public. Act rich in character before you hold riches in cash. Your time obeys the standard you set for yourself. Everything changes when you stop shrinking. Act rich before proof God already called you rich. Stop thinking like the poor. This changes everything fast. Reclaim the throne now.